An old desktop computer worth under $50. Can it Skyrim? Let's find out. I didn't have an old desktop computer laying around, which is actually perfect for the video I wanted to make this week. Well, last week really, but it took a little longer than I expected. I wanted to see if someone only had $50, what kind of Skyrim experience could they afford? Welcome to Crapyard Wars. Anyways, I looked on Craigslist, I looked on Facebook Marketplace, and I found some that looked okay for under $50, but I wasn't getting much response from the messages I sent. So I decided to just ask my Facebook friends if any of them had an old computer sitting around that they'd want to sell for cheap. And I had a guy reply, an old friend that lives about 2 hours away, that said he has a Dell running Windows XP, but that was about all he could tell me about it. But he said if I picked it up, I could have it for $35. So I took a short road trip. Alright, so here's what we have to work with. A Dell Dimension B110. It has an Intel Celeron D processor clocked at 2.53 gigahertz. This model actually had 2 gigabytes of RAM, which may have been added at some point in its lifetime, along with 160 gigabytes of storage. There is no GPU in here, but I don't think anybody expected one. It turns on great and it's running good. And I forgot how much I miss Windows XP. Maybe just a quick game of pinball and solitaire before we start. Alright, so we download and install Steam, download Skyrim as always, and let's see if it will start running on low settings. No. We get an error that says failed to initialize render, hardware TNL required, but not supported by adapter. So I looked this up and it pretty much means we don't even have good enough hardware to launch the game. I tried updating drivers and even trying to fake the launcher into thinking we had a GPU installed, but all with no luck. So I guess we're going to have to get a GPU installed after all. The minimum required VRAM stated in Skyrim is 512 megabytes. I've got $15 to spare, so I went to eBay and I found a VisionTech Radeon 3450 with 512 megabytes for $19. Slightly over budget, but only by $4. I found some that were cheaper, but they were PCIe slots and my desktop motherboard only supports PCI. So a few days later, it finally arrives, and it looks pretty great for being 10 years old. Plug it in, and I know it works because I can see the output displayed on my monitor, but every time I installed a driver for it, I would boot back up to a black screen. I tried Windows automatic search drivers, I tried manually using VisionTech, Radeon, and Dell drivers, and they all had the same problem. It's probably because I'm using Windows XP, but I'm already $4 over budget. I can't afford an updated operating system. Eventually, I tried a trick I found on a forum of downloading the Radeon Catalyst installer, then exiting out of it when it launched and using Device Manager to manually browse to the driver file. That finally did the trick. So will Skyrim launch now? Let's try minimum settings to start. Yes, it finally launches, but it stays frozen right after the Bethesda screen. I tried to Alt-Tab out of the game, and after some weird flickering, it finally loads. This is the second video now where Alt-Tab saves the day. So this is the gameplay experience of our computer on minimum settings. Not great visually or great frame rate. Walking around Whiterun, we're getting about 10 to 14 frames per second. Also, there is some really weird lighting issues at certain points. So we're already running minimum specs. So let's download the Skyrim Performer Increased mod and see if we can get any improvement at all on our frame rate. Here it is with the performance mod running, and it's really about the same performance on this machine, but we tried. So now it's time to give this desktop a Can It Skyrim score. We have a new scoring system this time that hopefully we'll hang on to for a while. Play type. We were able to run it natively on this machine, so a 10. Playability. It never hit 24 frames on any setting, but we were able to at least control it, so I'll give it a 1. Portability, we'll give it a 1. And the cool factor, also a 1, because there isn't much to show off about playing Skyrim on an old desktop hitting 12 frames per second. So our total score will be 3.25. Thank you all for watching. If you have an idea of something that we can see if it can Skyrim, then leave a comment below and let us know. Also, I just started a Twitter for this channel to keep you in the loop on how things are going and some behind the scenes stuff, and you can find that at @itskyrim on Twitter. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.